Okay, it's that time again. Headphone highlights. Well, we did it. We made it through our collection of dynamic driver headphones. And we are now entering a new world. The world of planar magnetic driver headphones. What's the difference? It's a difference of technology, a different way to produce sound. So dynamic driver headphones, as we've discussed, are basically what, when you think of a speaker, and it has kind of like that dome shape, and it's, there's a coil wrapped around it, and when the current goes through to it, it makes the dome move and push air forward. You know what I'm talking about? That's a dynamic driver. Planar magnetic drivers are a very different kind of technology. Rather than having that kind of dome shape, it's having a very, very thin membrane that is sandwiched between magnets, like arrays of magnets, very small magnets. And these magnets, when current hits them, they will interact with that membrane and make it wiggle and wobble to produce sound. Take care, dude. It was fun being here. Good night. Thanks for stopping by, Dexter. Appreciate sharing some nerdom with you. Thanks a lot, man. That was fun. So yeah, thin membrane, small magnets that move that membrane, and that produces sound. There are some benefits to a planar magnetic driver versus a dynamic driver. Primarily speed. With a dynamic driver, you are relying on that cone shape to move air in one direction. It's just doing this, and it has to do this in varying speeds to produce various frequencies, right? As we've discussed. Planar magnetic, it allows for much greater speed because you're working with something that's so much smaller. You're working with a very thin membrane that doesn't have to move very much. It doesn't have to do this. It just has to barely move at all. But it's doing it incredibly fast. So in general, a planar magnetic headphone can often just sound more snappy. Especially with like your high treble range, and even a little bit more punchy with your low end, your bass range. This is all very general, of course, but that's kind of the deal behind it. It's a different way to do it, a different technology to produce sound that does it in what can be just a much faster method of doing it. The downside to it is that we're dealing with magnets, and we're dealing with a lot of magnets, even though they're fairly small, and that adds a lot of weight to a headphone. So, common problem, not that planar magnetic headphones are always heavy, but a common problem that planar magnetic headphone manufacturers have to solve for is how to build that headphone regarding that weight that they have to work with. So it's just an extra challenge for a headphone manufacturer when they're dealing with magnets. So, this might not come out very well on the camera, but I'll see if it'll work out, because this is a grill right here, and you can see through the grill, and you can actually see the magnet array, which is pretty cool. But we'll see what happens. So these are the Hifiman HE4XXs. They are, once again, a partnership headphone with Drop, formerly Mass Drop. And this is a very classic design for Hifiman, one of their older, more traditional designs. They've kind of stepped away from this design a little bit with their newer headphones, which I think is a bit of a shame, because I really like this classic, simple look that this used to have. These are, I believe, based off of the Hifiman HE400Is. I might be wrong about that. I can't exactly remember. But the tuning is very different, to my understanding. Yeah, yeah, they're really cool little headphones. Very, very different. And these are where my first planar headphones. First ones I ever owned. These babies. And they were, I believe, the second audiophile headphone that I ever owned. Second to the original Sennheiser 598s. So this is a cool departure from what I knew at the time. Let's go over the build. So lots of metal bits and lots of really heavy duty plastic bits. This bar here is metal. It might even be steel. It's very rugged. I do not think it's aluminum. I didn't think it's aluminum. Pretty sure this is steel, even up in here. Then these cups here, this is plastic around this bit that goes around, but the grill here is a metal grill. Right up here, this is a little plastic houser for the adjustment, which just kind of slides up. Let's see if I can show that. Yeah, this kind of slides up. It's just through tension that it works that way, and slides back down. This is kind of the weak point of the headphone right here. You have a steel bar interacting with a plastic tension nub. Most people that complain about these breaking, the breaking point is this piece right here. And that, it makes sense. Metal, plastic, they're not really going to work very well together. But mine have held up just fine. I have not had an issue with it. The headband is, I'm sure it's a spring steel headband in here that's wrapped in this kind of faux textured leather. See if I can show you what that texture looks like. Come on. Sometimes this camera just doesn't want to. There you go. Yeah, it's almost like this fake alligator skin type of deal. Not exactly, but it's got some texture to it, and some stitching on the sides here. And there's not a whole lot of padding, but there's a bit, a little bit, and it's fairly comfortable padding. The pads, I keep getting these stuck on my desk here. The pads are a hybrid pad, which I don't think we've really talked about or seen before. So these are, you got this kind of faux leather out here, this protein leather, but then it transitions into velour. And the velour, the velour wraps over inside into the ear cup. And then in the ear cup here, right here, there's a very thin, very soft foam that is protecting the driver. So they're good pads. They're, a little bit thin, but they're, in my opinion, plenty thick enough, plenty comfortable enough for what they are. Comfortable enough that I have not had a need to replace them. I am not using the original cable that these came with. This is a balanced cable, but these terminate just into a simple 2.5 millimeter audio jack. So easy to replace, easy to find alternatives for, which is always a good thing. Let's see here. What else can I talk about? It's just a very, very industrial design for these. So it's very kind of simple. Everything is just function, more or less. This isn't very well. This is not a very sophisticated system. This is not very, carefully, precisionally engineered. It just is how do we make an adjustment that's simple to use, that just gets the job done? And that's what this does. And it does a good job. Even though this is a weak point here, like I said, I've never encountered a problem with it. And I like the look of them. I think they look pretty cool. I like that simple industrial, just it looks like it came from a Detroit car manufacturing plant or something like that. You know what I mean? Like a steel mill. I like it. Yeah, I like the build a lot. Good build. They are a little heavy. Again, planars, but you also got some a fair bit of metal on here too, so they got a bit of weight to them, but it's not terrible. So now we can talk about the comfort a little bit. You wouldn't believe it, but these are actually very comfortable. At least for me, I think they're super comfortable. This headband, while it doesn't have a whole lot of cushioning, it is forming so like perfectly on my head right now. Maybe I just have a very round head to go with this. I don't know, but this headband fits me almost perfectly. And even though there's not a whole lot of padding, it's super comfortable. Like, it doesn't bother me at all. I barely notice it. And now that these are on my head and the weight has been distributed, it's not an issue anymore. Like, they felt fairly weighty in the hand, but now that they're on my head and that weight has been distributed, I don't really feel it at all. Yeah, they don't feel heavy anymore. There's not a whole lot of clamp force either, so it's not that all that weight is being carried to your ears. It's just evenly distributed. They've done an amazing job of distributing the weight just evenly everywhere. So it's awesome. It's really nice. It feels so much more elegant once it's on your head. Once in your hand, it feels very rugged. You can like throw it around. You can. It's like holding a gun in your hand. It's just like this really robust metal thing. But once it's on your head, it feels a lot more elegant. So yeah, there's not a lot of clamp force. There's practically no irritation, annoyance up here on the headband. The pads, even though they're very, very round, don't have the issue that some of the very round pads have had in the past of, you know, making some sort of pressure points on my jaw or whatever. I'm not really feeling any pressure points here. This is all very, very comfortable. Really the only kind of I don't even really want to say a complaint, but a thing that can happen: headphones that feel like a gun. Oh dear, yeah. It does. It feels like you're holding like a, I don't know. Oh gosh. Plug that back in. Yeah, it feels like you're holding a pistol or something. It's cool. And this kind of like reminds me of like gun bluing. I don't know why. It just kind of does. The only real, I guess, downside, if you want to call it that, if you want to look for a negative, is that these hybrid pads, the velour, and the leather here doesn't allow for much breathing, which is all part of the tuning. So what that does mean is that they can get a little warm after a while. So after hour and a half to 2 hours of wearing these, my ears will start to get a little bit warm. But it's never been so much that I can't, that I find it fatiguing. It's never been fatiguing for me. I've been able to wear these for hours and hours and be totally happy and fine with them. So yeah, they're very comfortable headphones, despite how heavy they feel, and despite this very kind of robust design that they have. Very comfortable. On our cloud comfort system scale, let's see. Fidelio X2HRs are kind of a baseline of like what's really, really comfortable, I think. And I think the Fidelios are probably, I'm going to have to give it a little bit more than these, because the Fidelios, one, they have that head strap, and that's like always a more comfortable option than a headband. But also the pads I have on those things are just amazing. So I'll give these a good 7.5 clouds. Very comfortable. They're really, really nice. They're almost a solid 8. But they're not quite as comfortable as what we reviewed last time. Not reviewed, what we highlighted last time, which was the Sivgas. The Sivgas are more comfortable than these, but these are a lot more robust. So yeah, very comfortable though. The sound. So it's a bit of a dramatic statement, but you know, I said it to myself throughout the week, and I still agree with it. I think that these headphones are kind of the perfect headphone. So what I mean by that is, in terms of price to performance, this is kind of the headphone to beat for me. These are about 130, 150 bucks. And what you're getting from this is you're getting a lot. You're getting a lot. Just like how the Sivgas last time were an amazing deal then. They were a closed-back dynamic driver headphone that was hard to beat. They sounded great. They were built very well. They were really, really comfortable. These are kind of the same thing for planar headphones. If you want to open back, these are open back, by the way, an open back planar headphone to get that nice, crisp, fast sound for 150 bucks, you kind of can't beat this, in my opinion. I've heard some of the other mid-range, mid-tier Hifiman planars, like the HE400, the HE400i, and I also have the well, we'll talk about when I wear it tomorrow, or not tomorrow, next week, whatever. But of the like entry-level Hifiman planar headphones I have heard, this is by far my favorite. It leans towards the warmer side of things, but it's not nearly as warm as something like the Sivgas. So this isn't as relaxed of a headphone. This has a lot more purpose to it than the Sivgas do. The Sivgas were a very relaxed, chill, I'm going to hang out on my leather couch and, you know, absorb my music peacefully. These are still... These are very, very enjoyable. Absolutely. They're just not as relaxing because there's so much more punch to them. There's a lot of good detail in here. It can, on certain types of music, on certain tracks, the low end can kind of get in the way a little bit. It can do a little bit of veiling, particularly in the mid-range. But if you have music that has that low end a bit more well controlled, this really, really, really shines. It is, I would say, a very mid-range heavy headphone, but the treble response is so quick and so snappy. It is extremely satisfying and just very, very crisp sounding. Very, very... I stress to say accurate because these are not neutral headphones. These are not trying to be analytical. They're not trying to be accurate. But it sounds very natural, I guess is what I'm trying to say. It has a very natural snappiness to it. I guess kind of a comparison I can think of is if you listen to someone strum a guitar that has been a recording of someone strumming a guitar, you know what that sounds like. And you know the difference of what that sounds like when you hear a recording of someone strumming a guitar versus when you are sitting in person with that person strumming the guitar. You can really hear that pick. You really hear that that snappiness when it goes down the strings. That's kind of what I'm talking about here. This just has so much more snappiness than something like the Sivgas, or you know, a good comparable dynamic driver headphone of the same price range. The headphones to rule them all. I mean, kinda. I really do think that it's a big statement, I know, but I felt it for myself, and I've been doing this hobby for a couple years now, and I still feel this way. If you want to start getting into audiophile music and sound and headphones, and you want to try something that is different from probably pretty much anything you've heard. Because very few people who aren't already into the audiophile world have heard planar magnetic headphones. Most people's headphones are a dynamic driver. It's cheaper to produce, and it gets the job done. So planar magnetics are kind of something that only people who are really into audio ever dip into. So if you want to have something that is I don't really want to say unique because there's lots of stuff like this, but unique to what you have probably experienced, what most people have experienced, this is probably the best way to get into it, I think. I think this is the best headphone for someone who's starting to become an audiophile. I really do, man. I think it is. They're very affordable, and the performance you're getting out of them for that affordability is, in my opinion, perfect. Perfect performance for what you're getting out of these. Let's see, what else can I say about that sound? There's not a whole lot of soundstage, but there is a bit. So it's not super intimate. It's not beaming it right into your ears, but the soundstage is fairly narrow. They are open, but they're not super duper open. I do still hear my fan. I do still hear my voice almost crystal clear. There's just a little bit of isolation, a little bit of muffling, but it's definitely an open headphone. Sound is just very, I know I've kind of already said it, but there's just lots of sharpness, lots of clean crispness. These are very these headphones sparkle. That's a good term. These headphones sparkle, particularly in that high-end treble range. Not to say that they're sibilant. I don't experience sibilance with these. These are not fatiguing in the high end. They just kind of really are so sparkly and sharp and crisp up there. It's really satisfying. And the low end is very impactful. It's a very controlled low end. It just can, if you're listening to something that's really bass heavy, it can have a tendency to be a little bit too warm. A little bit too warm for neutral. And I don't mind it. I like it a lot. I don't mind that there's that warmth there at all. But something to keep in mind. So yeah, they're great sounding headphones. And I really do. I think that these are, for people who want to get into this hobby, these are kind of the perfect headphone. I think they're great. I think they're amazing. I love them so much. They're still... Oh, man. I said this before a couple years ago. I got to myself, maybe on a forum or something. At one point, I said these are my favorite planar headphone. And that's almost still true. These are almost still my favorite planar headphone. They're still really way up there. I love them a lot. I love the look. I love the feel. I love the sound, and I love the price. They're killer, man. Perfect headphone. You can't complain about it, really. I don't think so. So, we got about 10 minutes left. So let's see what we can do in those 10 minutes. Okay.